Alright, hello and welcome to another Why Would You Use, and as you can very plainly see, today is a little different. So, because of the response to the super video, which was mostly, man, I wish I could get and use this weapon, we are today going to go over some early and mid-game stuff that will last you your entire lifetime of playing Warframe. These weapons are just good, but you can get them very, very early. So, with that, let's get started, and first and foremost is Rhino. Rhino can be gotten so early, and he is infinite value, essentially. He just has everything, really. And putting a very, very basic build on him like this, which is just like a whatever rank as an early game player you have Vitality in, a redirection, because you're going to have one of those, mobilize, maybe you don't have this, maybe you just remove that, not a big deal. Basic power mods, maybe you don't have these. Remove them if you don't have them, like maybe you don't have stretch, not really required at all. Streamline's really nice, you're probably going to want it. Iron Shrapnel of the group here is probably the hardest to get. And it's worth noting that for this can kind of be whatever. You just want an aura mod of some description. Obviously, if you're an early game Rhino player, one that's a V polarity is going to do you really well because it's going to give you more mod points. But in general, your opening build is probably actually going to look a little something like this or so. So what I showed initially, we should probably shoot for going around like Uranus or so. Fill out your mod slots, get some good stuff in there, but just try and put good mods into your build. Obviously, if you have things like Prime Flow or something somehow, sure, throw it in there, why not? But regular versions of Flow, all that'll work. The main thing about Rhino is that he functions on essentially nothing. Like with almost nothing, you will do extremely well. And with actually nothing, you'll do pretty decently up until around Uranus or so. So with that, the really important things that I would suggest a new player try and get, especially if you have a higher level friend who is in Steel Meridian or something, is mainly Iron Shrapnel. Iron Shrapnel lets you do this, and we'll just show it. So basically, you put Iron Skin on. This is a really, really good defensive measure that gives you a lot of bulk and is really useful for the early game where you can't build bulk in other ways. And this will tick down. It lasts an infinite amount of time until you take the damage to break it, unless you have Iron Shrapnel, which allows you to hit the button again to remove it, which means you can put it right back on. This allows Rhino to be much, much safer, and I would suggest Iron Shrapnel in every build with Rhino. That being said, Rhino is going to get a refresh on a full builds video for his high level stuff, but this is just for early game things. Along with that, at MR4, you can get the Heck. The Heck is a devastating weapon that does a lot of damage and is really, really good early. I have chosen to put together this one form of build because I think by MR4, you can probably pop some relics that you've gotten just from star charting, and you can put one form in this weapon, and it's definitely worth doing. Along with that, Chilling Reload and Blaze, these can both be gotten from very easy Nightmare missions. Like the easiest ones, we're talking Venus, we're talking Mercury, we're talking clear all the missions on those, and then the Nightmare missions will show up. Run those, you're at least going to get Chilling Reload. Blaze is a bit more on the rare side, but it can be substituted with Vigilante armaments, so just do some PoE if you really can't get it. The hardest mod to get here is probably Hell's Chamber, but this mod has a 10% drop chance on Spear, which is on Mars, so just go there and get a ton of relics, which will get you the Forma, which will also probably get you the Hell's Chamber, so win-win. Along with that, again, Steel Meridian mod here with Scattered Justice. So Scattered Justice is insane. This also will let the Heck heal you, which is incredibly valuable as a new player. It'll help you branch out into more Warframes and still keep some of that resilience that you're probably going to be used to by that time on Rhino. So say, for example, you are used to being Rhino, having your Iron Skin take the bulk and not needing healing. If you branch out to, say, Gara, who is more of a mid-game Warframe, you can then still have Scattered Justice and have your heal in there, which is very, very useful for going to those other Warframes. But this is a really solid early build, and we're going to show this and one other weapon that is a little further down the line. So, with that, let's set our test up at level 50, like you do. And obviously, This build is not like optimized for this run or anything like that. And you're not going to be fighting enemies like this. Like, plain and simple, these are not enemies you as a new player are going to see. Level 50 is really high for a new player to be seeing, and it's just unlikely, especially along with that corrupted enemies. There's very little reason right now to be in the void at a high level, and the most you're going to be doing is like short runs through the void to get containers for the valuable mods that are in those, which we'll talk about in a second. So let's run this. It should be pretty easy, because obviously a new player is going to be using their iron skin, which we're just going to show how effective a method that is for survival. Like, being able to, like, just one-drop these enemies is super useful. Like, the basic enemies are dying in 1, and they're level 50. That basically translates to you around, like, level 20. A heavy unit doesn't survive a shot. And, like, if you're playing Rhino early, it's not hard to get close to enemies because you have the freedom of utilizing your iron skin, as you can see. And mine's running kind of low, but also it's running kind of low, and these enemies are level 50. Also, keep in mind that for this, I was not using my 3, which does boost damage even further. And I just chose not to use my 3 on purpose, so you could see the power of the weapon and the survivability of Rhino, not necessarily the other things that he brings to the table, like his Fantastic Four. So yeah, that really early, these are some things that you can very quickly acquire and get to, especially if you have friends or a community to help you out, which, of course, the community in Warframe is very, very helpful. If you need early game mods, like you can't get a point blank, etc., ask my community, ask like other content creator communities. There are plenty of veteran players who are sitting on like so many mods, and they'll be like, oh yeah, of course, just have these. Of course, you're new, here. So never be afraid to ask questions if you're new. But now let's show something a little further on that is very useful. So this, I know I have 5 Forma in this weapon, and the reason I have 5 Forma in this weapon is because this weapon is very good. It is worth 5 Forma. However, the build that is in it right now is a 2 Forma build, as I think that is a lot more manageable for someone who's at MR6, which is when you can get this weapon. Having a 1 Forma weapon at MR4 is very good, and the Heck, of course, works on 0 Forma as well. This on 2 Forma is absolutely outstanding. So this weapon, sniper rifles are very, very good right now. The sniper buff went through, and it is like a dramatic thing. Like, it makes snipers phenomenal, and the Rubico is fantastic for sorties and things, which are going to, around MR6, probably be kind of your focus to get through those. And there are going to be sniper-only restrictions some days, and this will suit you to that quite easily. Along with that, the hardest mod here to get is Split Chamber, and Split Chamber has 2 main ways to get it. The first is Orokin Containers, which I have an entire video on. If you need that, I'm going to put the Orokin Container like farming video down in the description if you really need to get Split Chamber. But otherwise, again, just ask experienced players. I personally am sitting on how many of these right now? I have 32 of these right now. Like, no big deal for me to give those to someone who's new. Like, no big deal at all. Everything else here is like pretty easy to get. Maybe Vital Sense will give you a little trouble, but I don't think so. With that, let's show what this does, but let's bump it up a little bit. Let's bump it up to enemies that you're definitely not going to see outside of a sortie, that you're definitely not going to see. Like almost never. Maybe an event. Even then, probably slim chance. And with this, you're going to find that Rhino is still incredibly survivable, and this sniper with like its 2 Forma build is still outstanding. This thing has innate punch through, which is super good, and because of the sniper weapon mechanic, which is that it can build shot combo, you're gonna have no trouble taking out harder targets, because you're just gonna build that damage up. Along with that, one of the reasons I think the Rubico is good earlier when you might not have access to all the best mods is because it has the most aggressive sniper combo in the entire game, which helps it to do a lot more damage in a lot less shots whenever you don't have, say, like an optimal build on it, which is one of the strengths of the weapon. But yeah, this is a situation you're very unlikely to run into, and these are level 80 enemies. like a 2-form build versus level 80s, like mopping them up, no problem. We're talking sortie 3 enemies here, basically. In most cases, this is going to be huge overkill for what you're going to be fighting, and I think a lot of people will have a very good time with this build. That, and of course, if you are a player that wants to get into Terrorlist killing early, the first Terrorlist, the Rubico, is a fantastic tool to use to DPS on him. So, kind of no matter what you're doing, I tried to pick some like early, mid-game weapons that are just always going to be solid and that you're going to keep in your arsenal for a long, long time to show off today, because I thought that might be cool. Kind of in response to people being a bit sad that they couldn't get the Super Vandal, which is what I showed off earlier. Anyway, that is going to do it for today. I hope you guys found some goals to work towards, or maybe some weapons that you passed up that you go, hey, maybe I should get that. So yeah, that's going to do it for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.